Hey everyone, welcome to the second part of this video on how do I generate ideas for multi-bagger stocks. In the first part, we looked at 8 ways to generate potential stock ideas. If you haven't watched it, I would strongly recommend pausing this video and watch the first part. In the second part, we'll look at how do I generate stock ideas using Screener website. So let's not waste any time and get started with the video. So there are 2 ways you can use Screener website to identify potential multi-bagger stock ideas. First is you create your own customized query, and for that you click on tools and then click on create a stock screen. Here you can write your query, and based on that query, Screener will filter out the stocks. The question is, what query should you put? So there are certain criteria that you need to look for. First is obviously the company should be growing its sales and net profits. Second, it should have a good ROE and ROC, so high profitability, right? Then company should not have a lot of debt. Right, and these are the simple criteria you can put. So let's put them and see what results we get. Sales growth, let's put more than 15%, and your net profit, let's say it is more than 15% again, and let's say return on equity is greater than 15, and return on capital employed, ROCE, should also be greater than 15. Okay, and debt to equity is less than 1. Right, so if you run this query, you get 305 result. And if you sort it in terms of market cap, you get names like Trent, Bajaj Auto, Bharat Electronics, Varun Beverage, Adani Power, CG Power, Dixon Technology, Oracle, Polycab, Persistent System, Cummins India, Mazgan Dock, ICICI Lombard, and so on and so forth. So these are the names, very promising names, right? But of course, it's a long list of 305 result. If you want to narrow down this list further, you can obviously use very strict criteria, like let's say sales growth more than 20%, net profit more than 20%, let's say ROE more than 20%. And if you run this query, you have got 154 results. It includes again names like Trent, Bajaj Auto, Varun Beverage. Next, you can also use criteria like you want to know only the mid cap and small cap. So let's say you put market cap greater than 1000 crore and market cap less than 25,000 crore. If you run this query, now you have got 101 stocks. It includes names like Natco Pharma, CAMS, Triveni Turbine, Zen Technology, Aditya, AMC, International GE, so International Gemology, the newly listed company, Newgen Software, Jupiter Wagon, Bikaji Food, right? So again, next criteria that you can use is the valuation part. Now this is very tricky. So if you look at price to earning, and let's say you want to know companies where the price to earning is less than 40. Obviously the companies, if they are growing at a fast rate, they will command a premium. But can we have companies where all these numbers are good, sales are good, your profitability is good, debt is under control, market cap is between 1000 to 25,000, and P is less than 40. If you run this query, you are now left with only 32 results, right? So then you can deep dive further, study companies like Natco Pharma, Aditya Birla AMC, Shakti Pump, IIFL Capital, Ganesha Housing, right? So again, this is just one way to look at it. You need to deep dive further. And please note that here you will miss out on certain stocks. So for example, company might be good, but then in last 1 year it is struggling, or the entire sector is struggling, and that's where the sales are not 20%. Right? So you will miss out on certain stocks, but this is a good way to really identify potential companies. And this is one way, right? Apart from this, there's one more criteria I use is CFO to EBITDA. And let me just show you the results. CFO to EBITDA, if you put more than 50, and let's say you want to know market cap greater than 1000 crore. If you run this query, you've got 865 results. Now, what is CFO to EBITDA? It is the ability of the company to convert its EBITDA, which is the operating profit, into cash. And it's very, very important because at the end of the day, no matter how much profit you show on P&L, it is the CFO, that is cash flow from operation, that is very, very important. By the way, this is a customized metric. How do you create that? I'll quickly show you. So here, if you look at it, let's take an example. Let's say Dixon Technology. It has got a CFO to EBITDA of 79.2. How do you do that? Just click on edit ratio. Just go down, click on this create new ratio. You can see I've created this CFO to EBITDA. It is cash from operation last year divided by EBITDA last year multiplied by 100. Okay, and if you run this query, you get all the companies that have got CFO to EBITDA. So here we have used companies where CFO to EBITDA is more than 50. If you want an ideal company, it should have a CFO to EBITDA more than 70. But if let's say you want to be a slightly linear, and if you run this query, you have got 865 results. If you put that more than 70, you have got 604 result. If you sort it, you've got companies like Reliance, Bhadviya. So these are in terms of large to mid. If you want to do reverse, you've got names like MMS Infra, Elin Electronics, NDTV. Again, here you can have certain exceptions. So there could be a particular year where the CFO to EBITDA is very high, right? So the exceptions would be there, but then of course this is just one way to filter down the names, and then of course you need to deep dive further, right? So this is again second way. Apart from this, there are already a few customized screen that you can find. So if you go to screen, you got a lot of screens like popular themes, popular formulas. Here I use 5-6 screen to filter out names. One of them is capacity expansion. Now what does it suggest? It basically suggests companies that are growing their assets, right? So it says where fixed assets have doubled over the last 3 years. So that's first. Or fixed asset including capital work in progress has increased over 50% in last 1 year. Now what is the query for this? So sales growth 3 year is more than 12%. Again, they've also used sales growth should also be more than 12%. Net block should be greater than net block 3 year back into 2. So net block is nothing but your total asset. Or net block plus capital work in progress should be greater than 1.5 times the net block and capital work in progress of previous year. Apart from this, they've also used criteria like sales of last year should be greater than 25, debt to equity should be less than 3, and market cap should be greater than 25. So that is given list of 993 names, right? And then of course you can sort it around the market cap and all these parameters. Obviously this is a long list. So how do you narrow it down? So maybe you want to know companies where debt to equity is less than 1. Now you've got 839 results. Then what else you can do? Maybe you want to know only companies where market cap is more than 1000 crore, right? So now you've got only 383 companies, right? And then of course you can again play around. Let's say you want to know companies where sales growth is more than 15%. So if you run this, now you've got 372 results, right? So this is a good way to look at companies that are growing their capacity. Companies like ONGC, Zomato, Avenue Supermart, their assets are growing at a fast rate, which means their earnings and profitability is also going to increase over time, because if they're doing capacity expansion, it should be reflected in their revenue and profit growth, right? So this is the first screen you can consider. Second is the companies that are creating new highs. Again, quite interesting. So the idea is to know companies that are making new high, and if the company is making new high, obviously there's certainly something good happening around the company, right? The sentiments are positive, and obviously the sentiments are positive when the sector is in the upcycle, or let's say if the company is doing well, right? So you've got 816 results. Obviously that's a long list. Here the criteria they've used is current price should be more than the high price into 0.85. So basically the stock should not fall more than 15%. Okay, and market cap they've used more than 100. Maybe you can run more than 1000, and that way you are left with 441 results. And you can sort it in terms of high to low, and quite interesting names you can come across. So this is again a very good way to look at which companies are making new high, and then you can deep dive further. Then third screen you can use is your Piotroski scan. Okay, and what is that? So Piotroski scan suggests the companies that, so basically it gives score to company based on 9 parameter. Okay, and if the company satisfy a score of 7 or above, then it gets shortlisted. Obviously you should ask what is that 9 parameter company uses. So let's quickly look at the parameters that are used in Piotroski scan. First is the profitability, where it uses net income, operating cash flow versus net income, return on asset, operating cash flow. And the criteria is that if the company has made net income in the current year, then it will make, and again if it is positive then it gives a score of 1, if it is negative it gives a 0 score. Second is operating cash flow versus net income. Positive score if the net income is higher, negative score if it is in other case, right? Return on asset, positive score if ROA is higher than the previous year, and then operating cash flow, positive score if operating cash flow is positive. Second is the leverage, liquidity and source of funding. That include your debt levels. So positive score if the debt level has decreased as compared to previous year. Second, current ratio, positive score if the current ratio has increased as compared to previous year. And then you have got change in number of share outstanding that you can go through. Then you've got third criteria, which is operational efficiency, which include your gross margin and asset turnover. Right, so positive score if the current asset turnover ratio is higher than previous year. So these are the 9 important parameters company uses to give a score, and based on that you can filter out. Now, obviously, it is not very easy for someone who has got a job or business to track all of these things. And in case you are a long-term investor and looking for certain guidance and you don't have a lot of time, you can explore my weekly video series that include one exclusive video every week. Okay, and here I discuss my own investment strategy, stocks I'm buying in my portfolio, or let's say selling from my portfolio. Apart from that, I keep a close eye on the government policies, the macroeconomic environment, which sectors are doing well, and based on that, we discuss a lot of stocks. Plus, I also track more than 200 quarter results. I've got Excel that I've maintained, and that also help in identifying a lot of potential opportunity. Right, so in case you're interested, you can explore my website or you can explore the join button of this YouTube channel. I'll anyways provide the link in the pinned comment. Now coming back to the screener part, this screen filter out companies that have got a score of 7 or above. And there are 630 companies in this list. If you sort it by market cap, it includes names like State Bank of India, HUL, Sun Pharma, Maruti, Ultratech Cement, and of course, let's say if you want to know companies where market cap is less than 25,000 crore, and if you run this query and just sort it in terms of market cap, it includes names like Dr. Lal PathLab, BASF India, Whirlpool India, Triveni Turbine, and Ratnami Metal, Concord Biotech, Newgen Software, Kalpataru Projects, then Kansai Nerolac, and so on and so forth. Then again, you can, like I said, you can play around with this query, make the criteria a bit strict, and then you can narrow down to lesser stocks. So let's say you want to know companies where price to earning is less than 30. Okay. And here now you've got 271 companies that have got a very high Piotroski scan ratio of 7 and above, and then earnings are also less than 30, P ratio, sorry. So here you have names like Welspun Corporation, Welspun Living, Nava, Godavari Power, LT Food, JP Power, and likewise. Next screen that I look at it is the magic formula. Now what is that? Here you have got only 76 results, so the criteria is quite strict. What is the criteria? Return on invested capital is more than 25%. So this is clearly a very strict criteria. Very few companies have that kind of high return on invested capital. Earning yield is more than 15, book value is greater than 0, and market cap is greater than 15. So if maybe you want more than 500, you will get a better list of just 22 companies. Now quite interesting here, you again have names like Mishtan Food. Okay, so like I said, this is not a foolproof method. You sometimes end up with wrong companies as well, where the numbers are just, we have discussed Mishtan Food. It's recently, SEBI has also taken action against them because they've done certain, they've manipulated their P&L. But the point is that, anyways, this gives you a good idea. Look, for example, your companies like ONGC, Coal India, NMDC, Bombay Bumrah, right? So that is basically based on the magic formula. Next, we have got this screen called Coffee Can Portfolio. I'm sure you all would be aware. This is based on the book that is written by Saurav Mukherjee. And what is the criteria? Sales growth is greater than 10%, but the strict is that sales growth 10 years should, so that shows the consistency. If the company has got at 10 years sales growth of 10% and above, which is the CAGR number we are talking, then obviously that shows the consistency. Return on equity should be greater than 15%. Average return on capital employed of 10 years, it should be more than 15%. So not just last year, but the 10 year, right? That shows companies that are consistently doing well, and market cap greater than 1000 crore. That gives you 108 results. And what are the companies? You have got names like Maruti Suzuki, Titan, Bharat Electronics, Varun Beverage, TVS Motor, Dixon, Polycab. Again, fantastic names, right? And then of course, if you want to know only the mid cap companies, small cap companies, you can play around with the market cap. So this is another screen that is quite interesting. Then you have got certain price or volume related. So this is more of momentum investing related information. For example, you have got price volume action. What does it suggest? It suggests companies where the volumes have increased by more than 5 times and price movement is positive. So the company's stock price is going up with high volume, which shows a positive momentum towards the company. Currently, there are 48 results. And if you sort it, you've got Dr. Reddy. If you open it, let's have a quick look. So the volumes have increased. You can see recently share is going up and the volumes have increased by good amount. Right? So that is a positive news. Then what else we have? General Insurance, Amber Enterprise. So if you look at Amber, look at this, very high volume and the share has increased. So looking good in terms of momentum. Of course, this is only momentum based. You have to deep dive. What is the reason? So one of the reason I found is recently there's a very strong buying that has happened by names like Mahindra, Manulife, ICICI Prudential, Tata, yes, all life insurance companies have purchased, even Goldman Sachs, and this is as latest as 28th December that has happened, right? So they purchased at 6,075 and currently it is at 7,250, right? So that's there. And of course, you can look around other names. So this is again a very interesting screen for identifying momentum stocks. Next, we've got something called golden crossover. Now, this is again very interesting. That shows the DMA, which is daily moving average. What it says that your 50-day moving average should be more than your 200-day moving average. If that is the case, let me simplify this. If your 50-day moving average crosses 200-day, which means there's a very strong positive momentum in the company. Again, I'll take an example. So let me show you with an example of Polyplex. So that will give you a good idea what does it mean. So here you can see this. So orange line is 50-day and this black line is 200-day. Here during June 20, there was this golden crossover where this orange line crossed the 50-day moving average crossed 200-day with strong volume. And look at the upside that has happened. From 400, it jumped to 2,800. Then there's something called death crossover, right? And here, when that happens, when 50-day falls below 200, and that too, if it happens with volume, the stock falls. Recently, if you look at it, in 1 year, if you see, there's again a golden crossover where 50 days crossed 200-day, and that too with volume, and then the share is going up, right? So this is a good way to look at technicals and the golden crossover and the bearish crossover that we have discussed in this particular example. That again gives you a fair idea in terms of identifying what companies are in strong momentum, both upside and downside. Then apart from that, you can also look at quarterly results. So one of the screen is the bull cartel, which include companies with good quarterly growth, especially made to keep a track of latest quarter results. What is the parameter? Year-on-year quarterly sales growth should be greater than 15% and quarterly profit growth should be greater than 20 and net profit of latest quarter should be greater than 1. And here you have got 691 results. And if you look at, so again, let me just put certain filters like market cap greater than 1000, and if I run it and just sort it by low to high, you can see certain very interesting names like Olitech that we have discussed recently. Then you have very few, some of the names even I am not aware of. But yeah, this is one way to filter out companies that are doing well in terms of quarterly results. Next, we have got parameters like your highest year-on-year quarterly profit growth, best of latest quarter. Likewise, you have got something called FI's buying. Again, we have already done that filtration. Here it is looking at change in FI holding greater than 1% and FI holding minus change in FI holding should be less than 5%. If you run this query, you've got 121 results. So this is again a good screen. Again, you can't use all these screens. So I've highlighted some important screens like capacity expansion, companies creating new high, then these popular formulas, all three of them, Piotroski scan, magic formula and coffee can portfolio. Then you can also look at price volume action, which is one that we have seen, golden crossover, bearish crossover, bull cartel again is a very interesting one to track good quarterly numbers. Then we have looked at FI buyings. Of course, there are a lot of screens that you can see. It's a long list. You can't go through all of them, but this is a good way to look at some popular screens and that can actually help you filter out potential stocks. So that's pretty much it. As we discussed, first is the tool that you can use to customize the query as per your requirement, or you can go through the screens and there are a lot of them. Maybe if there's any specific screen that you want me to go through in detail, you just let me know in the comments. And for example, these popular magic formulas and Piotroski scan, if you want me to do detailed review, then you can let me know. Apart from this, yeah, so this is one way that you can use screener to identify potential ideas. So this is it for this video. Here please note that stock idea generation is the first step before you invest your money. In the next step, you need to deep dive into each business. Plus, not every potential business would do well. So you also need to track the quarterly results that include the earning growth, future prospects, as well as understand the valuation. In case you don't get enough time to do all this, you can explore my weekly video series. Link is in the pinned comment. Now tell me in the comments, among these screeners that we've discussed, which one do you like the most? If you find this video useful, do share it within your circle. I'll see you next video. Till then, take care.